Hi, dreamers. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been rotating into growth stocks lately with lower yields. So today I'll review some of the growth stocks that I've been adding to and why, along with a look at total return of all of these stocks. I'll show you which ones I own, which ones I don't own and have ruled out, and which ones I'm thinking of adding. So let's take a look. So recently, one guy on X asked me, Dream, you've been at $95,000 in dividends for a long time now. When do you get to 100,000? And I answered that question a little bit when I talked about it in a recent video about how I've shaved off about $100,000, give or take, to execute a double dip strategy where I get interest on the cash and also leverage that cash for put options. And you can clearly see in any of my recent monthly videos how that's starting to turn out, with over $40,000 this year so far in options income. So it's a strategy that I'm very excited about, and it's working. But the other reason why I'm not reaching my $100,000 as quickly right now is that I've decided to take the dividends that I've been receiving every month and pile them into growth stocks. And so I've built up about $100,000 in growth stocks now. And the reason is the following. I believe that we've seen a soft landing start to play out economically. And although there could be one more punch later on this year, overall I see interest rates going down, and that's going to be a boon for growth stocks. So I wanted to show you some of the ones that I've been adding to on the screen. And I know this Seeking Alpha tool isn't perfect, but I'm using it to show you total return over the last 10 years to compare the following stocks that I currently do own. And of course, the first one is Avgo. This has been one of my favorites and is actually one of my biggest dividend growth positions. And you can see over the past 10 years, it's grown over 2,800%. And then you probably noticed about a year or so ago, I sold a bunch of my Microsoft, but then started buying it back about 6 months ago. And in my opinion, Microsoft might be the most solid company out there. And with a total return of over 1,100%, it's definitely a keeper for the long term. Next, of course, we have Apple with also 1,100% total return. Now, the question always comes up, are they going to repeat their success of the past 10 years? Well, that's an outstanding question. But the bottom line is, they have a very sticky ecosystem and a huge moat around their products. The next one that you may or may not have on your radar is Cintas, which is the uniform company. And just look at that return over the last 10 years, over 1,000%. You wouldn't think that a uniform company could go up against these tech giants, could you? But they just run a tight business over there. And so this is a more recent growth stock that I've been adding to. The next one is UNH, or United Healthcare. And they are just a massive medical company with a nice solid return of 650%. Now I know you know the next one, and it doesn't pay a dividend, but it is one that I've been adding to recently, believe it or not. And I'm pretty bullish with Google for so many reasons. And then if you've been following me for a while, you've probably seen I've been adding quite a bit to Texas Instruments. And you can see their total return here at over 465%. What I love about Texas Instruments is that their business isn't as cyclical as the other chip makers, as they essentially make a lot of component chips and have efficiencies of scale by doing that. So all of these are growth stocks that I currently own and have been adding to. But that's not the end of it. Let's continue. So here's Texas Instruments again at 465, and the next one I picked up recently is ADP, which of course is the giant paycheck company, followed by PLD, which is an industrial REIT that I think has the ability to bounce back quickly. So I think they have the potential of outpacing return once the interest rates get in line. Now we have ORI, which is a pretty boring insurance company that just steadily grows at 280% return. And that's followed by McKesson, another giant healthcare distribution company at 261% total return. And I wanted to put the next two in for comparison because SPY is pretty much the S&P 500. And then we have SCHD, which is a really popular ETF at 206% return over the last 10 years. And so all of these stocks are also stocks that are in my portfolio that I've been adding to lately. And each one of them brings something different to the table. as I continue to diversify my portfolio for both cash and growth. Now let me show you some new stocks I've been adding to, and some other stocks I don't own that I've taken a look at. And the first one here is Lilly. Now you probably recall I did a recent video on both Lilly and NVO. And just take a look at these numbers. 1,230% total return and a 621% total return. Both of those are outstanding and relatively new growth stocks to my portfolio. And if you've been following my options strategy, you know that I often pick TQQQ and SOXL, which I covered a little bit in my AI video. You can also see here that both of these have recently gone through a trough and are on the rebound. So my strategy with these two have been to create put options and not really mind if they get assigned and just wheel them back and forth as the stocks start to rise. But my goodness, even if you just own them outright, what a performance of total return. And next I wanted to cover some stocks that I don't own. The first one is AutoZone, which has done pretty well over the last 10 years with over a 500% return. Now AutoZone does not pay a dividend, but again, the return has been phenomenal. And then we have Costco, which is not quite as good as AutoZone, but at 478%, I don't see any sign of stopping them. And then it's followed by Waste Management, which is not quite as good as Costco, at 389% total return. But let's be clear, all of these stocks have very much outperformed the market over the past 10 years and have been great picks if you bought them 10 years ago. Now let's take a look at some companies that I have not purchased or held. And so here's the 10-year total return of McDonald's at 288% total return, Walmart at 176% total return, and here's Coca-Cola, which has grown incredibly since the early 1900s, obviously, but I think bears some analysis on their total return and growth over the last few years. Because actually, if you zoom in, you can see that Coke has had a negative total return over the last year as compared to these others. So those are some that I probably won't be buying or holding, as some of the other options are just too enticing right now. And lastly, I wanted to just show you insanity. Now, some of you who follow me on X know that I've been bodybuilding all this year and getting myself into shape. And so some have joked that I probably should hold Monster stock because I do drink Monster before heading to the gym to work out. And wouldn't you believe it? They're up over 500% over the last 10 years. But take a look at Celsius. Holy cow, over 35,000%? And what that shows is that essentially there's a pretty big market disruption away from sugared drinks and towards healthier drinks and drinks with caffeine that are missing the sugar. So that's one to consider adding, even though it doesn't pay a dividend. And then I couldn't finish this video without mentioning NVIDIA, which is up almost 13,000%. Now, NVIDIA is a stock that I held for quite a long time, when I sold most of my growth stocks before the big interest rates started to hike. And then recently it's just ballooned in terms of the price. So will I be jumping back into NVIDIA? Probably not anytime soon. I'll just be monitoring it to see if there's any kind of dip coming up. But these two, I might be considering these. Well, that's it for today. If you want a richer real-time experience with me, you can always follow me on Instagram or Twitter. And if you're doing your own research using Seeking Alpha, feel free to find the link below to subscribe if you want. No pressure. As always, I encourage you to do your own research, then implement and learn by putting it into practice. And as a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor, so keep in mind these videos for entertainment and inspiration only. I'll see you on the flip side.